The power difference between the Xbox Series X and the PS5 when it comes to the GPU could be bigger than we thought going into the next generation. What's up everybody, welcome back to another video. So since we got the release of the specs for the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5, one of the main things people compare and talk about is the GPU power and overall teraflops. Now as we know, the PlayStation 5 has around 10 teraflops and the Xbox Series X has around 12 teraflops of GPU power. And yes, I know teraflops and GPU power and all this stuff is not the only thing that determines how powerful a console is, but it definitely plays a role in it. And we got some confirmation today, some reconfirming confirmation about the PlayStation 5, its power, its GPU, and how it will be comparable to the RTX 2060 Super. Now, obviously this tweet comes from someone who is an Xbox fan because her name is Series X, but that's besides the point because they are screenshotting a member of Digital Foundry. Me comparing the 2060S was not arbitrary. It will likely be competitive to the PS5 GPU in games. I am doing expectations management, which is what the video was about in many ways. Also going on to say off a question saying that, but what about non-ray tracing? Spider-Man Remastered is pushing 8 times the pixels of a PS4 to achieve 4K 60 FPS. Response to this being, I do not know, we will have to wait and see. Once again, the RTX 2060 Super was non-arbitrarily chosen because it will be competitive or comparable to the PS5 GPU. Not because it is the exact same, and then he has to repeat it because you know people are going to take that as gospel and they're going to jump on it. But also saying we could have gone with the RTX 2070S, but after talking with the team, we thought the RTX 2060 Super was the better GPU in comparison. The RTX 2060 Super will also be the GPU I put in a PC for my videos. I will derive console settings for it and see how it runs compared to the Xbox Series X and the PS5 to get a better sense of where those GPUs from the console fit into the PC landscape. I will also use whatever middle range RDNA 2 GPU is out at the time, or perhaps the Ampere replacement for the 2060 Super whenever that comes out. It will replace my mid-range PC GPUs in tests that has an RX 580 and a GTX 1060. Now take that for what you will. It sounds pretty truthful as to what they're doing. And Digital Foundry always does really great comparisons, really great benchmarks, and they're always on point, truthful. And then it goes on here where Yuri O'Donnell, who is Epic's rendering engineer, agrees with Digital Foundry's analysis that indicates that PS5 GPU is equivalent to an RTX 2060 Super, stating that great theoretical analysis of real-time ray tracing challenges in games by Digital Foundry. Everything is on point. I could only really add a handful of general notes to what's covered there. Now that brings me to want to talk about a couple of points on this. Now, as we know, both consoles are going to be powerful. Both consoles are going to have great things like the PS5 having the faster SSD. We don't know a comparison between the two SSDs yet. We'll see how much of a difference that actually makes in the long run. But this to me is just a little bit concerning in the fact that the RTX 2060 Super can't really play games in 4K at 60 FPS. And I know that that is the goal and the benchmark of these consoles into the next generation. So you can pretty much guarantee that the majority of PlayStation 5 games are going to have that performance mode and that high fidelity mode. And I don't foresee too many 4K 60 FPS games coming to the PlayStation 5. Now I could be jumping the gun a little bit because obviously with console games are optimized differently compared to PC. And you've seen this with PlayStation with their first party exclusives particularly, where they really get the power out of the console, like God of War, like The Last of Us, and how they take hardware that isn't as powerful as it should be or could be and produce this amazingly high graphically fidelity games that just blow your mind. Now, I don't doubt that that will be the case as well going into this next generation. What I do doubt is that we're going to be delivered on that promise of 4K 60 FPS. Now, with the Xbox Series X having that extra teraflop power and having that extra GPU power, it is more comparable, people are saying, to the 2080 Super and maybe even closer to the 2080 Ti in terms of how it's going to be able to run games. So there is a higher chance that the Xbox Series X is going to be able to hit 4K 60 FPS. Now, even with the 2080 Super, you can't run everything in 4K 60 FPS. It can run some games in 4K 60 FPS. I don't know how much or how many, but you can definitely do it with the 2080 Super. I have a 2080, not the Super, in my PC, and I can run some games at 4K 60 FPS, but it's definitely a select few. and the optimal place to be playing these games is in 1440p. So if you're going to this next generation thinking that everything is going to be 4K 60 FPS, it won't be. It won't be. Like, these consoles are powerful, but they're, particularly the PlayStation 5 is definitely lacking in graphical GPU power. And you can almost expect, because of this, with the PlayStation 5, within 3 years, 2.5, 3 years, they're going to be releasing like another PS5, a PS5 Pro or something, which to me is kind of disappointing because the PlayStation 5 is the same price as the Xbox Series X, but it's less powerful. And you can use the first party argument all you want, but now Xbox, Microsoft, with the acquisition of ZeniMax and Bethesda, they're right there. They're right there with the first party stuff. They're going to have incredible first party games going into the next generation. And we saw this with the PS4 and the Xbox One, how they released such underpowered consoles. And we're not getting that this generation, but you can definitely see that PlayStation 5 has skimped out on that GPU a little bit compared to the Series X, and they're gonna have to upgrade it eventually. So now looking at this, even with the value of the two consoles, you look at the comparison, the price alone of a 2080 Super right now on average is about $700. I know in Canada it's even more, it's like almost like $1,000 or $800, $900, depending on which one you get. And then you got the 2060 Super at $400. These are approximates, right? The prices vary, and the average frames on these is clear that the 2080 Super is far superior in terms of 4K performance, average frames of 68 frames, and then 1440p at 97 frames. So even if you're playing games in 1440p on the PS5, you're going to have a much better experience on the Xbox Series X based off of these benchmarks. And if you're someone who plays third-party games, the Xbox Series X has a massive advantage right now, I think, over the PS5. I think that the SSD in the PS5 could do crazy stuff, but if you're willing to skimp out on a couple seconds of loading to get better frames and better resolutions, then I mean, you definitely can't go wrong with the Xbox Series X. And this to me, it's not to bash the PS5 or anything, but the fact that the GPU is closer to an RTX 2060 is a disappointing to me myself, because I have a 2080 in my PC, and then I'm going to get the Series X, which is going to have closer to a 2080 Super, 2080 Ti in performance, and the value for what you're getting at $500 in the United States or $600 in Canada is just absolutely amazing. Anyways, let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below. Do you care that the PS5 is equivalent to a 2060 Super? Do you only care about exclusive games on the PlayStation, so it doesn't matter to you at all? And will you be picking up the Xbox Series X because it is the more powerful console between the two? Make sure to stay tuned to my channel for everything next generation, as I will continue to make videos and update you on information and news that comes out about the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5. And I will be getting both consoles on day one, doing unboxings and doing videos covering them. I'd really appreciate it if you like this video to hit that like button, maybe share it around. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.